I want to talk to you about this moment. I mean, first, let me just get your thoughts on the efforts that are being made politically at the highest levels of government to address a very serious problem. And when you heard the Biden administration was going to appoint a liaison, some lawmakers were asking for a cabinet level secretary level cabinet position. Do you find that satisfying? How much more work is there left to be done on the part of the Biden administration in your eyes?
I'll admit to being surprised that there has not been an Asian American appointee to the cabinet. The fact is, Asian Americans helped Joe and Kamala win this election. They certainly helped win the Senate, which has enabled a lot of their legislation to actually pass. If you look at the electorate in Georgia, Asian Americans are 4.7% of the voters there, and Jon Ossoff won by about 1%, with the Asian Americans breaking 2-1 for Democrats. So at this point, the Asian American community by right should expect a cabinet level appointee, particularly because there's been an Asian American in the cabinet over the last several administrations.
Are you disappointed that the two lawmakers, Tammy Duckworth and Mazie Hirono, backed down at the point at which they did?
I think the point has been made, Alex. And the fact is, Mazie and Grace Meng are pushing for legislation that would help the Justice Department better address Asian American hate crimes. Tammy Duckworth has been an awesome champion for the community. So I think the point has been made. Let
me ask you about how you yourself are thinking about this. I am an Asian American. My mother is Burmese. I wrote about this in The Atlantic. I feel like this moment is a wake-up call and a reckoning, and a lot of Asians are finding their own voice to talk about issues that they had not talked about in their cultural communities before. And I kind of wonder what your journey has been like. You know, you wrote about this early last year or at some point last year in the pages of the Washington Post, and we're at a different place right now. Have you changed in your thinking about how to combat Asian racism and Asian hate crimes?
The last 14 months have been devastating for so many people in our community, Alex. And you probably had some of the same experiences I've had, where when you're out on the streets of New York, there's been a different energy, a different level of hostility, really, towards Asian Americans. And I talk to victims of anti-Asian violence all the time here in New York. A restaurant worker who was punched on the street for no reason, a woman punched on the street for no reason, spitting, stabbing, and of course, the terrible tragedies in Atlanta. And so I do believe this is leading to a political awakening for Asian Americans. I'm very proud to have been the first Asian American man to run for president as a Democrat. I may be the first Asian American mayor in New York City's history. And hopefully I can contribute to the fact that many Asian Americans are more politically engaged than we've ever been, in part because people feel like our community is, frankly, under different sorts of attack than we've been historically.
Do you think of the way Asians need to talk about themselves? Do Asians need to talk about themselves differently? I guess I ask you that because, you know, one of the things you do so successfully is talk about bucking stereotypes. On the other hand, you have had fun with those stereotypes, too, right? I remember the math hats, right? And Asians being good at math, of course, is, you know, a stereotype that fits into a broader and more pernicious stereotype about Asians being model minorities. Does that need to change?
Well, as you said, Alex, I think times are changing for the Asian American community. And there was a degree of invisibility that I frankly felt some need to try and overcome and combat when I was running for president. But now we're facing xenophobia, racism, even violence, and the phenomenon, unfortunately, is getting worse, not better, in terms of anti-Asian sentiment. And so we need to come together, build connections with Americans from every background, let people know that Asian Americans are just as American as everyone else. It's been a really heartbreaking time for people in the community, and the goal is to try and build something positive out of this.
Yeah, I wonder how much of the onus you think lies on Asian Americans to do that and how much of it is the work of other people. I mean, I think one of the, you know, you talked in your earlier op-ed about Asians needing to sort of pronounce themselves patriots in one form or another. And I think some people read that and said, you know, it's not our job to prove that we're part of the fabric of American society. It's up to other people to recognize that we are. And that's kind of a lesson that's learned intersectionally from battles that, you know, black and brown brethren have had. It's not up to black people and brown people to say, this is why you shouldn't be racist against us. It's up to the racists to shed their racist ways. So where does the work who has the most work to do, I guess, as you look at the landscape?
Well, I think we can ask more of ourselves and ask more of each other. And I was uplifted by this rally and event in New York this past weekend, where it was organized by both Black and Asian leaders trying to bring our communities together. And Jumaane Williams, who's here in New York City, made an ask that I think really speaks to the heart of what we should be doing. He said we should be greeting someone every day that we might not ordinarily say hello to. And you might surprise them initially, but we can broaden what we think of as our own community. And we need to do something if we do see something amiss, particularly if it's affecting someone like in a public setting where, unfortunately, some of the events here in New York City had bystanders who, frankly, failed to help the person who was being victimized or assaulted. And we can all do better than that. So we should ask more of ourselves, each other, and certainly reach out to different communities to let people know that we're all in this together.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.